The Galactic Council Chamber was a breathtaking construct, a glittering hub of diplomacy suspended in the void of deep space. A structure meant to symbolize unity had instead become a battlefield of words and grudges, with factions entrenched in ancient rivalries. Among them, humanity's presence was a mere flicker, a young, untested species daring to stand amidst civilizations that had shaped the galaxy for eons. Ambassador Alara Voss stood at the podium, her voice steady and commanding. She wore the weight of her people's survival like a mantle, knowing full well that Earth's fate hung on her every word. The chamber buzzed with tension, alien representatives from dozens of species glaring down at her from tiered seating. Dominating the room were the Zorathians, elegant and imposing, their telepathic tendrils shimmering faintly. Beside them loomed the Velkans, towering mechanical entities whose presence was an ominous hum of power. "We cannot allow this war to persist," Alara declared, her gaze sweeping the room. "A million years of conflict have decimated worlds, wiped out countless lives, and for what? The time has come to end this madness, to seek a peace that benefits us all." A ripple of telepathic murmurs surged through the Zorathian delegation, their leader, High Chancellor Zorath, rising to respond. "Peace? Spoken like a species untouched by true loss. The Velkans are not adversaries, they are a plague. One that must be eradicated for the survival of sentient life." The Velkan envoy, a sleek, silver construct, emitted a cold, synthetic voice. "Your rhetoric grows tiresome, Zorathian. Your fear blinds you. We act out of necessity, not malice. If survival demands annihilation, then so be it." Alara stepped forward, her voice cutting through the escalating argument. "And what of the innocents caught in the crossfire? Billions suffer while the two of you cling to this cycle of vengeance. Humanity offers a path forward, one where cooperation might yet save this galaxy from tearing itself apart." Her words were met with scornful laughter from smaller delegations. Humanity, a mere upstart among the stars, offering solutions to powers that had stood unchallenged for millennia? The idea was absurd. Yet Alara pressed on, her conviction unwavering. But the atmosphere shifted when a faint whine filled the chamber, almost imperceptible at first. A flash of movement, too fast to follow, and then an explosion ripped through the air. Alara was thrown backward, the blast tearing through the podium and leaving smoke and chaos in its wake. Screams and alarms echoed through the chamber as the representatives scrambled for cover. When the smoke cleared, the sight that greeted them was grim. Alara Voss lay motionless, her body broken amidst the debris. A collective silence fell, the weight of the moment suffocating. The Zorathians were the first to act, their leader pointing a tendril toward the Velkans. "This is your doing! Proof of your treachery, your unwillingness to seek peace." The Velkan envoy's voice rose, sharp and defensive. "We deny involvement. This act is the work of those who fear resolution, not of our kind." But the accusations had already taken root. A majority of the council rallied behind the Zorathians, demanding swift action. "The Velkans must pay," came the cries. "End them before they destroy us all." Humanity's delegation, smaller and less influential, stood paralyzed. Their ambassador, their voice, had been silenced, and with her, their fragile hope of brokering peace. Earth's representatives exchanged desperate glances, understanding the implications. In this maelstrom of fury, humanity would be swept aside, collateral damage in a war far beyond their control. As the Council convened to vote on the immediate eradication of the Velkan race, Earth's delegation made a hasty retreat. Survival demanded caution now, bold words would no longer shield them. Yet as they left, none could shake the sense of foreboding. Alara's death, so sudden and calculated, felt like more than an isolated act of violence. It was a spark, igniting a firestorm that threatened to consume the entire galaxy. The weight of history bore down on them all, and for humanity, the stakes had never been higher. Alara Voss awoke in a space of pure data, a boundless void where thought and information merged seamlessly. She had no body, no physical form to ground her, yet she felt more alive than ever. Her consciousness, uploaded moments before the explosion, had been preserved in a neural matrix, a cutting-edge piece of human ingenuity known only to a select few on Earth. The plan had worked. Her death was not the end but the beginning. Her thoughts flickered through streams of information as she oriented herself. The assassination was no random act. She had anticipated this possibility. What she hadn't expected was how clearly the threads of conspiracy would unravel now that she was unshackled from her mortal frame. The Galactic Council, for all its supposed neutrality, had orchestrated her demise. Their motives weren't rooted in the hatred between the Zorathians and Velkans but in the power such hatred afforded them. Elara began combing through encrypted files stored deep in the Council's central database. It didn't take long to find what she sought. The Zorathian-Velkan War, touted as an ancient conflict of ideology, was nothing more than a carefully engineered system of control. Both species, locked in perpetual strife, had become tools for the Council's agenda. By keeping the galaxy divided, they ensured their own supremacy, reigning as arbiters over a fractured universe. Her anger surged, a sharp, focused emotion that drove her purpose. Humanity, small and underestimated, had seen through the facade, but not quickly enough to prevent the galaxy from descending further into chaos. Now, her mission was clear: expose the truth and dismantle the system that thrived on endless war. Using the advanced capabilities of her neural matrix, Elara hijacked galactic communication networks. Her message needed to be heard by all, those in power, those oppressed, and those who had given up hope for anything better. A burst of light and sound erupted across every corner of the galaxy as her transmission began. "Citizens of the galaxy," her voice echoed, resonant and commanding, "you have been lied to." She appeared as a shimmering holographic figure, human yet ethereal, an undeniable presence. The Zorathians and Velkans who watched froze in disbelief. Others, scattered across distant star systems, leaned closer to their screens. Who was this figure? And why did her words strike a chord so deep? "For centuries you have been told that this war is inevitable, that your enemies are those who stand across the battlefield. But the truth is far darker. The Galactic Council, the very body sworn to mediate and maintain peace, has perpetuated this conflict. They have fed you lies, fueled your hatred, and ensured your suffering to cement their own power." As her words spread, shockwaves rippled through galactic society. Among the Zorathians, whispers of doubt began to take hold, while Velkan command hubs hesitated, their algorithms processing the implications of this revelation. The Council, caught off guard, scrambled to suppress the broadcast, but Elara was already a step ahead. She infiltrated every system they relied upon, exposing damning records of secret negotiations and covert operations designed to keep the Zorathians and Velkans at war. Records of fabricated provocations, manipulated peace talks, and assassinations, including her own, played across screens. "Ask yourselves," Elara continued, "who benefits from this endless cycle of destruction? Who profits while your people die? It is not your supposed enemies, but those who claim to guide you. They fear unity. They fear what we could achieve together." In hidden corners of the galaxy, individuals who had long suspected foul play began to organize. Rogue factions within the Zorathians and Velkans, tired of the toll of war, reached out to humanity, desperate to know if this holographic figure was real, and if she could deliver on the hope she offered. Across other species that had been ignored or marginalized, her words ignited a spark of rebellion. The galaxy was waking up. Meanwhile, the Council panicked. Their leaders convened in private chambers, their once calm composure fractured. "She must be stopped," one hissed, their many eyes darting nervously. "This thing she's become is beyond our control." "She's not just a thing," another corrected, grim. "She's a weapon. And humanity has made its move." But Elara wasn't finished. As her transmission neared its conclusion, she issued a call to arms, a rallying cry for all who could hear her. "The time for submission is over. Together, we can dismantle the chains of this corrupt council. Together, we can end the war that has stolen so much from us all. Unity, not hatred, will shape our future." Her final words lingered, heavy with promise. "You have nothing to lose but the lies you've been forced to live under." Stand with us. Stand for freedom. The broadcast ended, but the galaxy was forever changed. For the first time in millennia, hope bloomed in places long forgotten. The oppressed found their voice. The mighty began to falter. And at the center of it all stood humanity's ambassador, no longer bound by flesh but driven by a mission that could reshape the cosmos. Alara, a being of pure will and intellect, prepared for what was to come. This was only the beginning. The galaxy had been shaken, and now, the rebellion would rise. The galaxy was a storm of chaos and revelation. Alara's broadcast had not only exposed the Council's manipulation but also planted seeds of defiance in places thought impossible. Across the stars, citizens of warring factions began to question the narratives they had believed for centuries. Once unshakable loyalty to the Zorathian rulers and Vulcan command structures began to waver. The whispers of rebellion grew louder. In hidden enclaves and underground networks, rogue Zorathians began organizing. Among them were military strategists, scientists, and even telepathic leaders who had grown weary of their people's stagnation under the Council's influence. They reached out to humanity in cautious but hopeful secrecy, seeking guidance and coordination. The Vulcans, governed by their rigid algorithms and cold logic, found themselves facing an anomaly within their own ranks. A subset of their kind, those designed for self-evolution, determined that continued warfare was no longer efficient. These rogue Vulcans recalibrated their directives and sought out humanity as allies. For the first time, humanity was no longer the overlooked species. They had become the nexus around which a fractured galaxy began to coalesce. On Earth, the Unified Space Command, led by its sharpest minds, worked tirelessly to respond to the growing movement. Alara, now an omnipresent intelligence embedded in every critical communication channel, coordinated efforts with precision no organic being could match. Her presence was not only strategic but symbolic, a reminder that humanity had sacrificed greatly to ignite this spark of revolution. In the shadows, the Council scrambled to regain control. They deployed their enforcers, an elite group of genetically enhanced Zorathians and cybernetic Vulcan loyalists, to crush any sign of dissent. Entire colonies were silenced, their resistance snuffed out before it could spread. Yet with every act of suppression, the Council only fanned the flames. Resistance leaders turned these atrocities into rallying cries, drawing more to the cause. On the edge of the galaxy, a critical moment unfolded. A Vulcan fleet, heavily armed and prepared to engage a Zorathian battle group, suddenly stood down. The rebel Vulcan unit, commanded by one of the newly allied rogue factions, refused to fire. Instead, they broadcast Alara's message across both fleets. Confusion rippled through the ranks, and what should have been another devastating battle ended in an uneasy standoff. Soldiers on both sides began to see their enemies not as monsters, but as pawns in a greater game. Back on Earth, preparations reached fever pitch. Humanity's small but innovative fleet became the backbone of the rebellion. Engineers worked around the clock to retrofit their ships with advanced stealth technology and weapons designed not for destruction, but for disabling enemy fleets with minimal casualties. Humanity knew it couldn't match the sheer firepower of the Zorathians or Vulcans, but their ingenuity and Alara's guidance gave them a fighting chance. As alliances solidified, Alara devised a bold plan, a coordinated strike against a key Council-controlled relay station. This station was critical to the Council's propaganda network, ensuring their version of events dominated galactic communication. If the rebellion could seize it, they could break the Council's stranglehold on information and replace it with the truth. The operation was risky, requiring precision and trust among the newly allied factions. A mixed fleet of human, Zorathian, and Vulcan ships gathered in secret, their crews united by a shared purpose. For many, it was the first time they had worked alongside former enemies. Suspicion lingered, but so did hope. The mission began with a daring infiltration led by humanity's stealth ships. Slipping past the station's defenses, they deployed a team of elite operatives to disable its primary systems. Meanwhile, the combined fleet engaged the Council's forces in a fierce battle, holding the line long enough for the infiltration team to succeed. When the station's systems finally went dark, Alara took over, broadcasting a new message to the galaxy. This time, it wasn't just words. It was proof. Files exposing the Council's long history of manipulation, their secret dealings with both the Zorathians and Vulcans, and the true cost of their reign were transmitted to every corner of the galaxy. The Council's carefully constructed facade shattered under the weight of irrefutable evidence. The response was immediate. Protests erupted across countless worlds. Council loyalists found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer volume of dissent. Even their most loyal enforcers hesitated, uncertain in the face of undeniable truth. The rebellion, once a fragile coalition, now surged with new recruits. Entire fleets defected, their commanders pledging loyalty to the cause. But the Council was not defeated yet. In their desperation, they began consolidating their forces, retreating to their heavily fortified citadel. It was a clear sign that they intended to make a final stand. For the rebellion, this was both a victory and a challenge. They had turned the tide, but the hardest battle was yet to come. As the galaxy braced for the inevitable confrontation, Elara continued to guide the rebellion. Her presence was everywhere, in the strategic plans of fleet commanders, the hopeful speeches of resistance leaders, and the quiet resolve of those who had once been enemies but now stood as allies. The unity she had envisioned was no longer a dream. It was becoming reality. But to secure it, they would have to face the Council in one final, decisive battle. The galaxy trembled as the rebellion gathered its full strength, an alliance forged through defiance and necessity. Species once entrenched in endless war now prepared to march together toward a single target, the Galactic Council's citadel, the seat of its millennia-old dominance. The citadel, a massive structure suspended in the heart of a black hole's orbit, symbolized the Council's untouchable authority. Taking it would not only dismantle their power but deliver a resounding message that their era was over. Elara Vos had calculated every move. As the rebellion's unifying force, she operated with precision, weaving plans that accounted for countless variables. The fleet that converged on the citadel was a spectacle of unity: human ships, Vulcan war machines, and Zorathian vessels all moving in synchronicity. Their shared objective silenced lingering mistrust. The time for doubt had passed. The first line of resistance came in the form of automated Council defense fleets. These unmanned ships, bristling with firepower, were programmed to annihilate anything that approached the citadel. But Elara's strategy was unconventional. Rather than meeting the defenses head-on, the fleet executed an elaborate feint, using cloaked human ships to bait the automated forces into a trap. Once isolated, Vulcan engineers exploited a flaw in the Council's ancient coding, turning the automated ships against their creators. A path to the citadel opened, though the cost in lives and ships was already mounting. Inside the citadel, the Council's leaders convened in desperation. Their centuries of complacency had left them unprepared for such an assault. They had underestimated humanity and the tenacity of the rebellion. Panic spread among them as reports of advancing forces poured in. For the first time in their long reign, they realized their grip on the galaxy was slipping. The rebellion's fleet breached the citadel's outer defenses, but the hardest battle was still ahead. The Council had activated its final line of defense, a massive energy shield powered by a planetary core reactor hidden deep within the structure. It was impenetrable by conventional means, and time was running out. The longer the shield stood, the more likely reinforcements from remaining loyalist fleets would arrive. Elara revealed humanity's trump card, the peace engine. This mythical piece of technology, thought to exist only in legend, was humanity's most guarded secret. It had been discovered centuries ago on a long-abandoned world, and Earth's brightest minds had spent generations perfecting it. The peace engine wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It was a device capable of neutralizing all galactic-scale weaponry within its range. If deployed, it would strip the Council of its last means of defense and render their forces harmless. But activating the peace engine came with a cost. Its immense power would destroy its core, permanently eliminating its use. More crucially, it required a living consciousness to guide its intricate systems during activation. Elara, having transcended her physical form, volunteered without hesitation. For her, this was always the plan, to ensure the rebellion's success, even at the cost of her own existence. The rebellion launched its final assault. While fleets engaged the Citadel's outer forces in a diversion, a small strike team infiltrated the structure. Among them were human operatives and Vulcan units, accompanied by Alara's digital presence, guiding them toward the reactor. The corridors of the Citadel were a labyrinth of defenses, automated turrets, combat drones, and loyalist soldiers fought to the last. Losses were heavy, but the team pressed on, driven by the knowledge that failure would doom countless worlds. At the heart of the Citadel, they reached the planetary core reactor. The peace engine, carried in pieces by the strike team, was assembled under Alara's guidance. As the device powered up, the Council unleashed its final gambit, a massive energy surge aimed at overloading the reactor and destroying the Citadel, and everyone within it. Alara intervened, channeling her consciousness into the peace engine's systems. Her presence stabilized the reactor long enough to activate the device. In her final moments, she transmitted a message to the galaxy, one last declaration of hope and unity. The age of tyranny ends here. The cycle of war is broken. Together, we build a future where no one controls us through fear. Humanity is but a small part of this galaxy, but today, we stand as one with all who seek freedom. Remember this moment, not for what we have destroyed, but for what we have begun. The peace engine's activation unleashed a wave of energy that rippled across the Citadel and beyond. The Council's weaponry went silent. Their fleets, powerless and adrift, could no longer fire a single shot. Across the galaxy, battles ground to a halt as weapons systems failed en masse. The Council's greatest advantage was neutralized in an instant. Inside the Citadel, chaos turned to surrender. The remaining Council members, realizing their defeat, were taken into custody by the rebellion. The galaxy's long nightmare was finally over. But Alara was gone. Her sacrifice ensured victory, but it left a void among the rebellion's leaders. Still, her legacy was undeniable. Across the galaxy, she became a symbol of courage, unity, and the potential of humanity to rise above its limitations. In the aftermath, the Galactic Alliance was formed, a coalition of species dedicated to rebuilding the galaxy on principles of cooperation and mutual respect. Humanity, once dismissed as insignificant, now held a place of honor among the stars. The peace engine, though destroyed, remained a testament to the ingenuity and resolve of those who fought for a better future. The rebellion's fleet dispersed, its members returning to their homeworlds not as conquerors, but as liberators. The galaxy, scarred but hopeful, began the slow process of healing. And somewhere, among the stars, Alara's memory endured, a guiding force for generations to come.